You want to know our substantive defense? It's 4 things. They've never changed. I think Mr. Jordan dreams of them in his sleep.
Well, I would just say, when did it happen? Everything Mr. Swalwell just said, if it all happened, why isn't it in the resolution? Democrats say there's some scheme to have an announcement made by President Zelensky to get a phone call with the president, to get a meeting with the president, and to get the aid released. When did the announcement happen?
But this debate just lacks a certain sincerity. I heard earlier my friend from California, Mr. Swalwell, say, list out all these crimes. And so if I'm watching at home, I'm thinking, well, where are they in the impeachment? That is just a Democrat drive-by to go and list crimes that you don't allege and that you don't have evidence for. If there is ever a microcosm of how to consume this day and the importance of it with the American people, it's that they're naming crimes in debate that they don't even have in their impeachment resolution because they can't prove them, because there are no underlying facts.
They got the call on July 25th. They got the meeting on September 25th. They got the money on September 11th. There was never an announcement from the Ukrainians to do an investigation. So you can keep saying all this stuff and all the points that this happened. Didn't happen. Not the facts. Those are not the facts. And we know why the aid ultimately got released, because we learned that this guy, this new president, was actually the transformer, the real deal, was actually going to deal with the corruption issue in his country. That's what happened. You can make up all the things you want, but those are not the facts.
Both President Trump and President Zelensky said there was no pressure. We saw the call transcript, and there's no conditionality. There was never awareness on the part of the Ukraine that there was a delay in aid, and the Ukraine got the aid without opening the investigation that seems to be so troubling to Democrats. Everything you're going to hear them say today can be pretty much categorized into 3 areas. First, it's either stuff people presumed and had no direct evidence of, kind of their water cooler theory of the case. Second, it's hearsay. Somebody told somebody else that created some concern about the president's conduct. Or it is reflective of a sincere policy disagreement about how to make the Ukraine great again. I mean, I heard all these folks come by that are part of the diplomatic corps, and they sure seem to believe that we ought to do everything for the Ukraine, but if the president disagrees with that, it is not impeachable conduct. Essentially, they're alleging a shakedown. But I think most Americans know that you cannot have a shakedown if the person allegedly being shook down doesn't even know about the shakedown. You have President Zelensky himself saying, I felt no pressure. And then, talk about bad timing. We got this Time article that comes out on the 10th of December, just a few days ago, because their theory of the case is, well, even if Zelensky didn't know there was pressure, there's this other guy, Yermak. And Yermak knew from Gordon Sondland that there was pressure, but the same day that they introduced their articles of impeachment, Yermak gives this interview with Time magazine, and he says, and I quote, Gordon and I were never alone together. We bumped into each other in the hallway next to the escalator as I was walking out. And I remember everything. It's fine with my memory. We talked about how well the meeting went. That is all we talked about. So here they are, with no crime, with no victim, with no witnesses, with no knowledge of any shakedown, and yet they proceed. To accept the Democrats' theory of the case, you got to believe that the Ukrainians are lying to us. You got to believe when they say there's no conditionality, no pressure, nothing wrong, that they're so weak and they're so dependent on the United States that we can't believe a word they say. Well, again, where were you during the Obama administration when this weak ally didn't get javelins that were then withheld? I support the Jordan Amendment because this Article 1, this abuse of power that they allege in the impeachment theory, is a total joke. They have to say abuse of power because they don't have evidence for obstruction. They have to say abuse of power because they have no evidence for bribery or treason. They have to say abuse of power because all those specific crimes that the gentleman from California named cannot be supported by the evidence. This is sort of the Rorschach ink blot test theory of impeachment, so that the country can stare at the ink blot and everybody can see what I guess they want to see. This notion of abuse of power is the lowest of low-energy impeachment theories. Heck, I don't know any political party that doesn't think when the other side's in the White House that they abuse power, they do too much. I got a lot of constituents that think Barack Obama abused his power, but you know what? We didn't do this to the country. We didn't put him through this nonsense and this impeachment. You all set the standard. We didn't set it. You said this would have to be bipartisan, compelling, and overwhelming. It ain't that, and this looks pretty bad. I yield back.
5 meetings. The last one I think is the most important because you had a Democrat senator and a Republican senator meet with President Zelensky in Kyiv. They knew the aid had been paused at that time. Ukrainians knew they'd learned a few days before that, and the issue never came up. But what did come up is both of these senators came back and said, this guy is the real deal, worth the risk, worth sending the hard-earned tax dollars of the American people to Ukraine. That is what happened, and the facts are very clear. You can make up all the stuff you want, but the facts are on the president's side. They've always been on the president's side. Democrats keep saying, to get the call, to get the meeting, to get the money, there had to be an announcement. It's December 12th. There is yet to be an announcement from Ukraine about any type of investigation into Burisma or the Bidens. Yet. Because it's not going to happen. Because it never needed to happen. That wasn't the point. But they got the call July 25th. They got the meeting September 25th. And they got the money September 11th. The other thing I want to point out. I don't know how many times I've heard this. The Democrats talk about this one sentence the president said in the now famous call transcript with President Zelensky. I would like you to do us a favor, though. The Democrats don't read the plain language. In fact, your star professor witness who was here last week, she talked about this being the royal we. She read the sentence the way you guys always try to portray the sentence. She said it was, I would like you to do me a favor, though. That's not what it says. It says, I would like you to do us a favor, though, because, and guess what the next 2 words are? Guess what the next 2 words are? Because our country, not because I. President doesn't say, I would like you to do me a favor, though, because I've been through a lot. He doesn't say that. It's very clear. I would like you to do us a favor, though, because our country has been through a lot. And that is the understatement of the year. Heck yeah, our country's been through a lot. This is the day after Bob Mueller sat in front of this committee, and we learned that there was nothing there. But 2 years he put our country through all kinds of turmoil because of you guys. That's what the president's pointing out, because in the end of this paragraph, he references Bob Mueller. That's what he's talking about. Heck yeah, our country had been through a lot, and the president was pretty ticked about it. He wanted to find out what was going on. That's very legitimate. That is working on behalf of the American people. But again, as I said last night, you guys don't respect the 63 million people who voted for this guy. That's why the Speaker of the House called the president an imposter. That's what's wrong. I would like you to do us a favor, though, because our country has been through a lot.